Cardboard, Episode 3, Die Macher. Coming to you from the birthplace of Denver Pyle, better known as Uncle Jesse on the Dukes of Hazzard, Denver, Colorado. Welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium and heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and other related topics in the board gaming hobby. We're your host. He's Tony.
And he's Edward.
Welcome to Episode 3 of Heavy Cardboard. Today's featured game is the epic classic Die Macher.
Die Macher. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today. Before we get started with our games, just want to remind you guys how to get in contact with us. Follow us, please, on Twitter at Heavy Cardboard. Hit us at Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. You can always email us at heavycardboard@gmail.com. And, of course, our website, heavycardboard.com.
And we definitely would appreciate a rating or 3 on iTunes if you guys get a chance.
Let's get started. Let's talk about the games that we've acquired recently. I'm gonna lead off by saying that the only game I've acquired recently is Rokoko.
Okay, Rokoko.
And my wife wants you to know that she has the fancy dress promo.
Nice. So that's it? That's the only thing you've acquired?
That was it, man.
Wow, I am like the opposite of you this week. In fact, this afternoon when I got home, we got a plethora of new games. First off, haven't actually gotten these two, but the most recent math trade, the high dollar or high value math trade, traded away Pillars of the Earth and the expansion for it.
Okay, the expansion is what makes that high dollar.
Right, yeah, no doubt. But as a unit, traded those away, and I got a couple of Martin Wallace games, which I figure you would appreciate.
Oh, what did you get?
Gettysburg and Waterloo.
Wait a minute. Wallace does military games?
Yeah.
I'm unaware of that.
Well, come by next week and you'll be able to check them out.
Sweet.
All right.
Those are two of my favorite battles.
Well, that works out then. The other games that I actually got in the mail today are Pericles, another Martin Wallace game.
Yes, it is. That's what I want to check out.
Yeah, it looks to be a cool area control game. Got it stupid cheap, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's give it a try. Also got the expansion for War of the Ring, Lords of Middle-earth. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's out of print now, I guess, but I got it for a good price, so wanted to try get that. Also got the little town tiles, the 4 town tiles for Terra Mystica.
Yeah, got those too.
And one thing that I actually got in the mail yesterday, no, check that, yesterday was Sunday, I guess that'd be Saturday.
Yes.
Was my copy of Master of Economy, which unfortunately, quote-unquote, mint condition. If you're going to package a game to take a transatlantic trip, package it in more than just another game box with no packaging.
Yeah, so, I saw your picture on Twitter.
Yeah, it got beat up pretty good, but the guy's been pretty cool about it. Offered us, a disc, some of the money off, whatever. Plus, I got a usable copy of Master of Economy, so rock on.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's it. I don't know, what is that, 6 games? It's been a busy week.
6 games, yeah. It has been. Recently, I've been playing a few games, some of which I've played with you.
Okay.
Some of which I have not. One of which I have not. With you, I played Rokoko, which led to my wife requesting a copy.
Which she played in that first time.
Yes, she loved it. She killed me.
To the shock of no one.
We've been playing Die Macher, obviously.
Right.
Regularly in preparation for today's episode.
Well, not just that, but because it's an awesome game.
Well, yeah, it definitely is that.
And also Master of Economy.
Master of Economy, right? Which we're going to play tomorrow night. Again?
Well, you are. Amanda's subbing in for me since there's more players because it only plays 4. So.
Yeah, and
Matt's
going to be in tow too, so we'll have to figure something out.
We'll play
Polis.
We'll play Polis, and you guys can play that, right?
Awesome. And I do have a strategy in mind for tomorrow in Master of Economy.
You give this far more thought than I do.
I mentioned in our Podblast
that
I'm not going to tell you or any of our listeners what it is. So, and now I hear you're not going to understand. You're not going to play in the game.
Right. So there you go. So actually, you could have said it, and it would have been safe.
Yes.
Oh well.
What have you been playing?
Well, other than Master of Economy and Die Macher, not much, to be honest with you. There's a couple other games which I'll get into here in a minute. But like, it's been a super slow week for me. Just it's been really crazy this weekend. We had a very chill weekend. We needed kind of a recharge the batteries type weekend after the previous weekend
Yes.
with you and our buddy Matt. But yeah, not a whole lot, sad to say. Acquired a bunch, but again, wargamer, I buy games, I don't play them, yada, yada, yada. So.
Well, I would imagine, sir, knowing you, that even though you've acquired several, that's not the end of your acquisitions. Is there anything you're currently looking forward to, or is in the pipeline, or anything?
Yes, but I don't know what. There's another math trade that the submissions ended 2 days ago. We're recording on Monday, and so I threw in a whole bunch of some of the leftover high dollar games into the math trade, as well as regular non-high dollar, standard whatever. And that ends tonight, so hopefully acquire something. Just don't know what.
Excellent.
How about you?
Actually, I've been thinking about a couple of older games put on my radar.
Santiago de Cuba? No? Okay.
Santiago, the older...
Oh, yeah.
Irrigating the plots.
Yeah.
It's got a neat auction mechanic from what I'm understanding, and I'm a sucker for auctions. And, I don't know, this is like maybe even a leftover from our previous episode where we talked about overhype caused by out of print.
Sure.
But Endeavor.
I've had it on my wish list, and I'm not 100% sure why. But because previously, anytime I read about something and it piques my interest, and I'm like, throw it on my thinking about wish list on BGG to go and do more research. And I haven't done that more research. It's supposed to be a fantastic game. I hear a lot of talk about it.
I want to try. I figure, hey, if we hate it, I can get the money back, right?
Sure. Oh, no doubt. You could turn around and flip it if worst comes to worst. So my question for you, though, is what was the impetus? What was what started you on the older games here, these two? Because let's face it, Cult of the New a lot of times and stuff. But what brought those on?
I guess, with Santiago, it's just that it's old is by accident, right? I was watching a video about the gameplay and the auctioning and the negotiating, and things look really interesting.
But what brought it on to begin with? Like, what got you researching about Santiago?
Actually, I don't even remember, but it was like clicking around, looking at other crap. Somebody said, "Oh,
going down the wormhole.
This has got a killer auction mechanic." Oh, really? Let me check it out.
Okay.
But with Endeavor, it's been on my list, I guess, for a while. Edward, are there any other games you're anticipating?
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm looking forward to. They're both Civ-type games that were both on Kickstarter. One is currently on Kickstarter, and another just ended not too long ago. That definitely piqued my interest. So the first one I wanted to touch on is called Progress, Evolution of Technology. I'm going to butcher these, so I apologize ahead of time, but designed by Agnieszka Kopera and Andrei Novak by NSKN Games. So it plays 1 to 5 players, supposed to play in about 90 minutes or so, and it's a card game where every player takes its civilization from antiquity up to the Industrial Revolution. But the hook for the game is that it's entirely about building a tech tree. There's no, imagine, Civ, the video game, Civ 5 or whatever, how you have the tech trees in that's the entire game. Is you're not building military, you're not building culture, you're not doing all that. You're simply building a tech tree. And there's something, kind of has a Seven Wonders type flavor to it, but on a different scale, a little bit heavier than Seven Wonders, and it really it looks interesting to me and had really beautiful artwork. So, yeah, that was enough for me to pull the trigger.
Interesting.
The other game that I wanted to bring up is a game called Historia.
Yes.
It's by Marco Pranzo by GeoChix Games of Romolo and Remo fame, and they've also republished Drumroll and stuff like that for the Italian market.
Okay.
It plays 1 to 6 players, and it's about 30 minutes or so per player. Each player guides their civilization through 12,000 years of history up to the modern age. Through card play, each of the player has a set of action cards. They acquire leaders, advisors, wonders, and players have a wide range of choices on whether to be highly cultured with little to no military, or to the extreme opposite, to where it could be high military, low culture, barbarian tribe type thing. And the cool thing is, you can be anywhere in between on that scale, and it works. So just because you're... take Through the Ages, for instance, if you neglect military, you're probably going to get punished in that game. Not so in this game, because the way the board works, or at least the way it looks like it works, right. It's almost like a stock market type thing.
That's what it reminds me of.
You advance either up or to the right, and it looks so unique, and it really, I don't know, there's something about, maybe it's because it looks like a stock market, that really, really looks really cool to me. So just damn interesting.
Yeah, I saw that game on Kickstarter, and I'm keeping careful note of when the Kickstarter ends because I have not decided whether I'm going to back it or yet.
Okay.
I agree. It looks like a stock market, and the color-coded where you move into certain ages, I guess, right. And stuff like that. And the card play looks like it interacts with that very well. I just don't know if it's going to be boring or not. There's some little bug in me, and I keep checking. I'm hoping that they put like a print and play out or something.
You know what? I think Rahdo, actually, I saw a video this morning that he did, his Rahdo runs through, right. Whatever, of Historia. So I would definitely say go check that out. And in fact, I didn't get a chance to watch that yet, but when we're done recording tonight, I'm probably going to go take a look at that and make sure that it is how it is in my head, at least.
Yeah.
But
that would help me a lot, seeing a playthrough.
Yeah. On the surface, though, oh yeah, it looks like it really looks wicked cool.
I really want it to be cool.
Maybe that's what it is. That's a great way to explain it. And it very well might be, but we'll find out.
Let's talk about a game that you introduced to my wife and I.
Uh-huh.
Rokoko.
Is it Let's not do that. Go ahead. Yeah, okay.
That's how I'm going to choose to say it.
Sure, go with it.
Because, you introduced it to us. We played a 5-player game of it.
Uh-huh.
And
which I think is really... I love the 5-player game.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And the wife said, we should get this because I really like it. So...
Done.
If she says that, then good is done, right? So, did that. Eagle Games was selling them online.
Which is the only place to get that.
With the promo.
But
in
that's
the price,
cool.
so $59. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I got a copy, and when it came in, we played a 2-player game. So now I've played a 5-player and a 2-player game of it. And I figured, let's talk a little bit about this game.
Sure. Well, first off, the 2-player... Well, we'll get into that. Go ahead.
Rokoko, for those of you who don't know, Matthias Kramer, Louis Maltz, and Stefan Maltz, published in 2013. And the famous Michael Menzel on the artwork, of course.
Beautiful artwork, as usual.
Plays 2 to 5. I played both of those. 2 out of 5. And the reason I want to talk about it, though, is because I think it's a pretty wonderful little game that, in all my reading about the game, just seems like it puts off a lot of people with the dressmaking theme or whatever, and that just kind of weirds me out a little bit, I guess.
It doesn't bother me.
Well, I'm not weirded out by the theme. I'm weirded out by people being weirded out by the theme.
I mean, there's another game, another dressmaking or whatnot. It's Pret-a-Porter.
Yes.
By Ignacy Trivicek. That, I don't know. I dig unique themes. I don't care if it's... I don't know. I can't think of anything. But no, unique themes are cool. Yeah. Like we've said, theme doesn't really matter, but if it has a cool theme or something unique, hey, that's only going to add to the game.
You hear so many people complaining about another Mediterranean trading game.
Or another farming game. Or
zombies, space. Yeah, so this is none of those things.
Right. I think you would think that would be a draw.
So I think those people are missing out on a really good game, actually. I think that the game has mostly some been there, done that, rehashed mechanics. But there's one mechanic that I think stands out to me in the game.
What's that?
Well, the game consists of course, resource conversion and area control, and some, deck building or hand building. That aspect of the game I enjoy. The way that they have you build your hand and your deck.
Us being mechanics whores that we are, if you notice a theme with a lot of these games in that, like Le Havre, right? Or Madeira, how it's got a whole bunch of different mechanics seamlessly brought together.
Yeah.
That just, I'm noticing as I get more and more into this hobby that's where we're drawn. It just seems. I've heard a lot of critique about this game that it's, whatever. It's they could have done more. A lot of people, I say a lot, but the vocal minority have felt that it's, there's nothing unique about it, and it's just, whatever. But I really like the blend of those mechanics. Yeah. I really enjoy how well they all work together, and the fact that it appeals to somebody like your wife that isn't as hardcore of a gamer,
right? But
also you and I, in a sense that, we are more of the hardcore gamer, and we can find a meeting place in that game in that it challenges you and I enough, but also isn't so complex that somebody like Robin, so on and so forth, could really dig it.
The card thing that I like about this game is it reminds me a little bit of Concordia and Lewis and Clark in the sense that you've got this deck of cards that you can play from, but what Rokoko asks you to do is pick 3 of those for this turn. So you do need to kind of plan your turn out. You don't necessarily know how it's going to unfold. So you can't just react by taking any card from your hand, from your deck.
Because whatever cards are left over that you didn't choose, you're going to be drawing the next turn.
Right. Those will be in your next choices.
Or, in your next choices, right.
And then, when you can buy additional cards during the turn, which go straight into your hand for further play.
As opposed to most deck builders where they go into your discard pile,
exactly.
These go into your hand, so it actually buys you extra actions that turn.
So I think that card play, that hand building, has a different twist than a lot of the other games that I've played that have those kind of mechanics, and that's the one I really dig in the game.
I could see that. For me, it's just the seamless integration of the different mechanics, and I really enjoy I don't want to call it a mismatch, because that kind of has a negative connotation, but I really enjoy the joining of the different mechanics and the seamless integration. I'm learning, like I said, that's really a big sweet spot for me.
I don't know if you feel comfortable enough to do so, but I'm gonna rate Rokoko.
Okay, yeah, and the reason we're gonna start doing this is our main games are going to be mostly games that we really enjoy, so they're going to be on the higher end of our scale. So we don't want you guys to think that, hey, these guys are big softies, that's all they do. So we figure we'd rate some of these side games.
Well, on a scale of 0 to 4. Now, we're saying 0 because
we can give it an incomplete. Think of it, the 0 is an incomplete.
I haven't played it enough to give it a rating.
Exactly. I don't feel comfortable enough doing that. So it'd be 1 to 4 with a incomplete or a 0. Right. So how would you rate it?
So I'm going to say it's a 3 right now. That's probably going to drop to a 2 with repeated plays.
Why is that?
Well, it is the same deck of cards every time.
Okay. So
I think it's expansion ripe.
Okay, yeah, I could see it. That's funny you bring that up, is that's exactly what I was thinking, was it's a 3 right now. I don't ever see it moving up any.
No.
If anything, it's at a peak of 3, could go down to a 2. I would agree with that. So the first game I want to bring up is a game called Die Aufsteiger, or in America, we think of it as The Climbers. It's designed by Holder Lons and published by Chili Spiel. I think that's how it is. And Strategic Space here in the States. Came out in 2008. And it's a really cool 3D all-wooden block game. And not like war game block, but like building blocks.
Yeah. Like a child's toys.
Exactly. So in the game, you have these 35 blocks. And everybody has their own little climber, a little wooden dude. Can't really call him a meeple. He's just a little dude. And each player, the goal of the game is to climb the mountain. So the players throughout gameplay are going to be moving one of those 35 blocks and getting it to where their guy can climb higher than the other players. And it's a really simple, rules-wise, there's like 3-4 rules in it.
Indeed there is.
But it's really deep, abstract, and I hate abstract games. I really dislike abstract games. I don't know why. I was on a chess team in high school, but I don't know. I don't dig abstract games.
Okay.
This game, however, I cannot get enough of. I don't know if it's the 5-year-old in me that really enjoys the building blocks, and I love seeing this mountain, these 35 blocks of different sizes or whatever, built up by all the different players, and just the physical nature of seeing us build this mountain. And it can be somewhat cooperative, and it can be highly competitive. It doesn't have to be cooperative in a sense that each player has their own side of a block, their color, and there's also one gray neutral which everybody can get on. So it could be, I choose to put it on the gray side, and hey, I'll help you if you help me type thing. Or I could just be like, you know what? No, let's just turn it to the yellow side, and now I'm the only one that can get on there. Cool abstract game.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
Oh, numerous times. My son owns a copy.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We played his copy once.
His copy's right now at my house even.
So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I'm not as enamored with it as you are, but it's totally an awesome game, and I'm happy to play it once in a while, sure.
Yeah, and it's a super quick play time.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking, 30 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
One unique thing about the game is it's a game in which no one sits, because you're always walking around the table trying to see the backside of the mountain, be like, are there any blocks over there that I could grab to help me, da-da-da-da-da, looking in here, and it's just interesting. Like, whenever we're playing it, somebody who hasn't seen it, they're always drawn to the table and be like, oh, wow, what's that?
It's an attention getter.
It really much is. And that, again, that's the Climbers. So a rating for me, and this is probably going to blow you away, but I'm absolutely giving it a 4. Probably, now, it might be inflated because of the fact that it's an abstract, and I really dig it, and I don't like abstract games.
Yeah.
But I just cannot get enough of the Climbers, and I really couldn't tell you why. It's just, it just scratches an itch that I never knew I had.
Well, my rating for the Climbers.
Be honest, no, I mean,
I don't know. I'm thinking it's at most a 3 for me, maybe even a 2.
Well, no, it can't be. It's one or the other.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go with 2, simply because my son's copy is at my house and I haven't cracked it open. Let's talk about another game.
Go.
A recent acquisition for me. Listeners of our last episode will recall. Vanuatu.
Which, let me chime in real quick. I had mistaken it for
Xanadu.
For Xanadu, which is the Colombian game that I was thinking of when you said mean game. Similar in name, but
there's an "oo" at the end.
Yeah, we'll go with that. All right, continue, sir.
Vanuatu from 2011 by Alain Affron is a worker placement game set in the Vanuatu archipelago, and I think that there's a couple things cooking here. One is, it is either, from what I see, a love it or hate it game, where people are really turned on by it or people are really turned off by it.
So, like Glenn Moore. Gotcha.
Like Glenn Moore. And I think that it is a mean game, and that's what really drives the love it or hate it.
Oh, I could see that. That makes sense, sure. Because there a lot of people are, especially Euro lovers, are really anti-confrontation.
Yeah. Weird. But like the worker mechanic, the worker placement mechanic in this game is simple. Let me explain it to you, because I know you have not played it yet, and I would like to play it with you. But that is, you got 5 workers to place on your turn, and all the players are going to take turns. First, they're going to place 2 workers. On their next turn, they're going to place 2 workers, and on their next turn, they're going to place their 5th worker. And then after everyone's done placing their workers, you're going to take those actions that the workers are placed on. There's only 9 actions. And when it comes to your turn to take an action, you can only take an action on a place where you have a simple majority. And so there's this whole play and strategy about what I need, what other players need, and where they line up. If I could just maybe delay your action a little bit, because that might cost you a subsequent action. Because some actions have a hierarchy, right? Like, I cannot sell fish unless I first acquire fish.
That would make sense. It would be hard to do. Let me ask you a question. Again, not being really familiar with this game, you said that you place 2 workers, then next player places 2, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then you place 2, and then you place a final 1, right? So that turn order right there doesn't change. So in all that, if you, me, and say Matt were playing a game, you would place your first two, then Matt would place his first two, then I would, then it's back to you,
Yes.
then Matt, then me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I could see how the screwage comes in big time in that.
One of those actions will, if you wish it to, will affect the turn order and tie-breaking resolution in the subsequent round.
Okay.
So you're never always stuck with the turn order. But it does require you to go get the turn order. Anyway, I think a lot of people get butthurt by it, but I'm a war gamer, so I really don't get butthurt by it. And it's kind of fun. Because, if you go into the game knowing that, hey, I'm gonna place 5 workers on 3, 2, 5 different spaces, I might get screwed out of 1 or 2 things, but that just causes you to plan and have contingencies, like my friend Matt said. Well, I better have some extra fish hanging around just in case I go to sell fish action and get screwed out of it.
And you can't acquire any, right.
Right. So,
is there any bluffing in there in that you could, how do I say this? If you, let's say I think you're going to acquire fish, and I want to try and take that majority, would it make sense for me to go and try and block you from taking that action? Or is that more hurting me more so than it's hurting you? Because if that's not what I need to do for me.
Yeah, I think that actions are so scarce that you don't necessarily want to go out and kill people, because that's going to lose you the game.
Okay.
But you can't also block for the sake of blocking. For example, if you have no fish and or you're not fishing first, you cannot sell fish. For example, in the game, there is a rule that says I cannot put a worker on the sell fish space unless I currently possess fish or I've previously placed a worker this round.
So you can't do it in the other order. You can't go to sell fish and then later on in your turn place dudes to acquire fish. Gotcha. Okay.
So it's kind of like you're programming your turn.
Okay, that's pretty cool. It sounds interesting. I'd like to give it a try.
Yeah. The rest of the gameplay is, getting fish, getting treasures, moving tourists, selling goods, and stuff like that. It's all right. It's, the worker placement's the meat of this game.
Okay. So give it a rating.
0.
Because you haven't played it.
Well, just the one play. We played it 3-player, and it was pretty awesome. And I need to play it a couple more times before I can give it any sort of a number. It's probably also going to be a 2, maybe a 3, just because the opportunity to get to the table is not going to be great, because not everybody is going to like that kind of screwage.
It's got to be with the right group,
right?
Or the right subset of our group, if you will.
Yeah.
Cool. So the only other game that I really wanted to talk about a little bit was a game designed by Harry Wu, and that's German Railways. It's the second in the historic railways system by Winsome Games. It's the first, or it came out just after Chicago Express. It's also been republished by Queen Games, came out in 2008. The Queen Games edition is the one that we played. We played it one time and played it with 5 players. In the Queen Games edition, there are some special rules that are attached to the different railroads if you want. We just played the basic game, so none of that. The goal of the game, like most train games, is to acquire the most money. And this being my first Winsome game, the only real train games that I'm familiar with are stuff like Railways of the World, Steam, stuff like, and obviously 18xx's.
Yes.
And so this was really unique in a sense that each train company only has 3 shares of stock. And the crux of the game, the 2 things that I wanted to highlight that I thought were pretty interesting, is trains only, or companies only pay dividends when they intersect with other trains. So
they're rail lines?
Yeah, when they're built into the same city.
Okay.
Whichever one forces the dividend payout, so if it's the black company's turn to lay trains or lay track, if they lay track into a city that already has an existing or more than one existing company already, then every company pays out dividends.
Weird.
Whichever company caused that to happen gets double dividend paid out. And I thought that was really unique, and the fact that there's only 3 shares of each stock, obviously there's not a lot to go around there.
Total for the game.
Yeah, 3 shares for each company. So there's a total of 30 shares, if you will. But there's only 3 shares, so, It could be you have all three. It could be you, me, and someone else have one. Or it could be you have two, I have one, whatever.
Right.
And especially in a 5-player game, pretty chaotic. The other really cool thing, I think it was cool, was the turn order. And I haven't seen any other game that does this. And there may be other Winsome games that do this. I have no idea. But in German Railways, whoever has the highest value portfolio, they only get one disc into a bag for turn order. So in a 5-player game, assuming no ties, the 5 players are going to have different quantities of tokens in this bag. And so if you're in 5th place, you get 5, 4, 3, and whoever's in first, as far as value of portfolio, only gets 1. And then somebody draws 5 out.
That's
so
like the NHL draft lottery.
It could be that whoever's in 1st and 2nd place doesn't get a turn this turn.
Wait a minute. Doesn't get a turn?
Right. But actually it works. It sounds totally just wonky. Like, I've read stories, and in fact, this happened. Chad was the leader for the majority of our game. And there were probably half the turns he didn't get a turn. Because we never drew his color token out of the bag. And so, but the thing is it's really a self-balancing thing. You would think that it would just be absolutely terrible. You spend half the game just sitting there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even though other people are doing stuff, if somebody else puts a stock up for auction, you can still bid on it, even though it's not your turn.
Okay. You're just not laying track, I guess?
Yeah. And you can't choose which stock to put up for auction. It's, again, only played it once. It's
sure.
just, it's so different than anything else that I'm familiar with that I don't know if I really liked it or if I was like, about it. So I don't know. I'm anxious to play it again.
All right, I was going to ask if you were going to play it.
Oh, absolutely. Because I even on games I think I won't like, I'm going to try again. Just, make sure it was a bad game. Or, make sure it wasn't just a weird situation or whatever. But it's just really, at least to me, was really unique and really, really like next level thinking. And just really deep. Pretty simple mechanically, but really cool. And that's German Railways.
Very cool. Let's move on to our main feature then. Die Macher. Die Macher, designed by Karl-Heinz Schmiel, and the original artist was Markus Geschwantner, was first released by Hans im Glück in 1986 as a 4-player game featuring only the Länder, or states, of the former West Germany, and the political issues that were relevant to the mid-1980s. This version is often sought after by collectors, but a revised version of the game with higher production value came out 12 years later, and this version was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres in 1998, and it added the states of Eastern Germany, a 5th party for a 5th player, and updated the issues to the 1990s, and had some extensive rule changes. In 2006, Valley Games of Canada produced a new version of the game with some language-independent components, revised political issues, and a few other rules changes, and that is the version that we've been playing in our group to review this game. Die Macher plays 3 to 5 players, and length of time is about 4 hours they're advertising. I think the scalability in the game is fair. It's not good.
The best way for me to explain it is I read on Board Game Geek. 5 players, incredible game. 4 players, really good game. 3 players, find something else to play.
And that's why I say the scalability is only fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game absolutely shines as a 5-player game.
Yes.
It's really good as a 4, don't get me wrong. But man, that 5th player really, really makes it pop, I think. What about playtime?
Playtime, it says 4 hours, but according to my mathematical calculations, in our group, in our 4 and 5 player games, it's been about 45 minutes a player.
I'll put it a different way. We've played the game, I've played the game now 5 times. And each of the 5 times, we've clocked in at 3.5 hours every game. Now, I do know that it's thought of as, oh my God, it's such an epic game. You have to absolutely schedule it, da-da-da-da-da. We're playing it on a Thursday night.
And going to work the next day.
Yeah, and it's no problem.
Right.
The key to this, and something I wanted to point out, is Scott Nicholson of Board Games with Scott fame from back in the day. He made about a 1 hour video that lays out how to play the game. Almost 100%. It's really, really good. And before we played it the first time, we made sure that every player, all 4 and 5, whenever we added the extra player, we made sure that everybody watched that video, and by the time, once we all got together, boom, we get to playing.
Yeah, that really expedited us getting into the game.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolute must-have.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott Nicholson's video. Yeah, very much. Thank you, Scott.
We have another Tony in our game group, and he pointed out that this was the first game in the Board Game Geek database.
Yeah, it's a Board Game ID number uno.
If that's the DB's primary key, then it was indeed the first game in their database. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Die Macher. Theme-wise, as the captain of a political party, you're trying to position your party for success in 7 different elections, each election of various scoring value. And all political parties that earn at least minimal votes in those elections will score some of the available victory points and earn some proportionate monetary donations to their party. Donations. Those votes are earned based on how your political party's platform aligns with the outlooks of the province, as well as your party's general popularity in that province. After the elections, your party membership size might grow based on your alignment with the national views of the country as a whole. So mechanically, earning votes is a function of the alignment of your party's views and the people of the province views. So while you're focused on the current election and trying to match your platform to those views, there's also other elections that are going to be happening in the game. There's, at the beginning of the game, there's 7 turns, 7 elections. There's going to be 4 in play. One's going to be resolved right now. So you're looking ahead to the next 1, 2, and 3 elections. So you have to keep investing in those future elections, trying to align party views and trying to change the population's views through media control and influence and things like that. And that media influence is, I think, a very cool mechanic in the game where your players are competing for mechanically a limited number of spaces in each district for media control. There's only 5. And you can place your pieces in those to get a majority, and the majority will allow the player to change one of the province's political views, hopefully to match your own party's political views, and thus increase your votes in the upcoming election.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is no matter how good your party is, it's never going to match all 7 of these regions and what their views are. So you can't. There are going to be times to where you just sacrifice a region, just like in regular politics. You're going to, there are certain states that, or in a U.S. presidential election, certain states, one of the candidates just is going to, just negate and just be like whatever. And you need to do that in this game because you're piece limited, first off. Yeah. And second, there's just no way for you to be able to influence enough to match up with 7 different provinces.
If you try to win every election, you will win no elections.
Yeah, you absolutely got to pick your battles.
One other cool thing I like about the game, mechanically, is the Shadow Cabinet cards. So here's the thing with those. There's only 7 Shadow Cabinet cards, and you could play up to 4 a turn.
And they're one-time use. So once you burn them, that's it.
There's not enough to go around.
So you're talking, there's going to be 7 elections, but during each region's election period, you're going to get a chance to influence all 4 of the immediately available elections. So you're talking 7 different chances to, well, really 6 different, because it's really 6 rounds with an additional election.
Right.
But you're looking at upwards of 15 different elections at any given time.
In play. Only one of which is going to get resolved that turn.
Right, and you have 7 shadow cabinets for these 15 or however many, not elections, but chances to influence those 7 elections. So you really got to pick and choose where to use those shadow cabinet cards.
And those Shadow Cabinet cards have a varying cost. Like, you must pay money when you play a Shadow Cabinet card, and the cost scale increases. And, of course, so does the possible effects, i.e. benefits, of playing those cards. So, how much money am I going to invest in the Shadow Cabinet in this particular region, or this particular region, or will I forego this one?
On any given turn, maybe early on, you think you're going to be able to match up to 3 of the 4 elections that are immediately set up on the board. So maybe you're powering through those shadow cabinet cards, and so late game, maybe you only have 1 or 2, or possibly none if you've quote-unquote blown your wad on all that previously, and now, you're kind of hung out to dry for late game.
Here's the 2 things I really love about Shadow Cabinet cards. 1 is the media influence. This is the 5 locations per region where it's an area control thing, basically. And whoever's got the majority in those 5 spaces per region can go ahead and change out one of the political views of that province, like we said earlier, to hopefully match their own. But one of these Shadow Cabinet cards can, amongst its many effects, of which you can only choose one of those effects is, I can, for $4,000, euros, marks, whatever, I can remove another player's marker, and then for another 4,000, put mine in there. And so that has given me an opportunity to take over the media control. But this is one of the places where player order comes in big time.
At the beginning of every round, and the rounds are election rounds, if you will, the players get to bid money with their
secretly. It's a secret blind bid for player order.
So whoever wins that auction dictates who goes first. It's not your bidding to go first. It's maybe I want to go first, maybe I want to go last, because there's benefits to both depending on what it is that you specifically need that round. It could be that I need to go first this round because there's only 1 media cube spot left in a certain region, and I need to, because I'm first, I get to put my media cube out there first and lock that down to where it can only be manipulated then going forward by Shadow Cabinet,
which is going to cost that player some cash.
And it could be possibly that maybe I want to go last this round because
you want to be the guy manipulating the media last.
Right, exactly. So maybe you've changed it. Oh no, sorry, Tony. Yeah. It's coming back to you. Oh,
hey, you
exchange that media cube, give me 4,000 to take one of mine off, and you've said it before. Oh, I'm sure that 4,000's coming right back to me because if I'm going last, I'm giving you back your own media cube to put mine back on there.
So here's the other thing I think that Shadow Cabinet's awesome at. That's the ability to designate an issue in a province as a key issue. And in effect, what that does is it doubles the value of that issue towards your popularity, i.e. it counts as a multiplier of 2 rather than 1, and it secures that card in that province, so you can count on it being there when you need. Now, someone else could come along, again in the turn order thing, and undo your key issue.
With the Shadow Cabinet.
With the Shadow Cabinet, right, which is more cash outlay to play the card. So,
and it's a burning of that card.
And it's a burning of that card.
One-time use.
I really dig the media manipulation and how it affects the province's political views, and I really dig the key issue designation.
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's very little in this game that I'm not really keen on. Let's back up a little bit, and let's go pre-game. Let's back it up there.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the game, everybody is handed a sheet. So on this sheet, players are going to get to choose their starting benefits. You're going to choose one thing from column 1 and one thing from column 2. Everybody does this secretly, and then shows them all at the same time. And so it's your political party could be set up at the beginning of the game different than mine. And so with 5 players, you could have completely different, plus what regions you're focusing on because of how the cards have come out for your party's
views, your party's platform.
For your party's platforms, it could be completely different than what I have. And even pre-game to this game has tactical and strategic merit.
I agree with that. I like the ability to stage my pregame thing by choosing what provinces I'm going to have maybe extra votes in, or media influence, or maybe I'll go with some higher party membership and various things like that. So,
because party membership are directly victory points for the end of the game,
right,
as well as money, on the first, third, and fifth round.
Yes. So there's this other mechanic in the game called the opinion poll.
Yeah, this is the big controversial part of the game, in my opinion. And I'll let you go, but I definitely have my own views on this. So go ahead.
As do I, and we're going to cover both of those views. But what happens with opinion polls is that every round, there's one opinion poll going to be published for each election that's in play. So in the beginning of the game, there's 4, and then as you get deeper in the game, there's 4, 3, 2, etc.
For a total of 21 total opinion polls in the game.
They're all dealt face down, so no one knows the results of the opinion poll. But what there is an auction for the right to view that opinion poll and then decide whether to publish it or not. So the opinion poll deck is basically saying of the 5 parties involved in the game, they're equally divided between ups and downs in popularity. Up 3, down 2, no, etc.
And those are going to be multipliers for your balloons, if you will,
your
party meetings, which then directly translate into how many votes your party is going to get in that region.
So having an opinion poll where your party popularity goes up 1, 2, or 3 spots is incredibly important. The thing is, it's blindly bid upon, right? Because the card's face down. So if this is a key election for you, that card could be potentially very valuable to you on one of 2 grounds. Either you don't want it to hurt you, or you want it to help you. So you might want to invest a lot of money into acquiring that card.
And it's impossible to win all 21 auctions in the game. It's impossible. So you need to, again, pick your battles. You need to figure out, okay, I don't care about this region. Maybe it's a low point value region, so I haven't invested heavily in it or whatnot, so I don't even care about that. So I can try and jack up the price.
Right.
I can try and bid you up because somebody has put a lot of effort into making sure that they're doing well in that region. So, okay, just because I know I am not going to buy it doesn't mean I'm going to let Tony get away with getting it cheap, right? So I can bid him up.
There's some intense auctions that result.
Yeah, we've seen auctions range from a minimum of 3,000 euros, marks, dollars. And I think the high for us, outside of the last one, which is an exception because it's just all money, I think the highest we've seen is $83 for one election that was just absolutely vital for 2 people. And, okay, how bad do you want it?
During the auctioning of the opinion polls, there's a lot of deal-making going on.
Yes.
Like politics in normal, right?
Yeah, negotiation is encouraged.
If I let you win this bid for this opinion poll, will you promise not to screw me over?
Right. The key about Die Macher is you can negotiate most anything. Nothing's binding.
True. So let's say that I bid my $61 and I won this opinion poll card. And I grab it and I look at it and there's nothing on there helping my party. So I can maybe hurt parties that I don't have alliances with or negotiated deals with, coalitions. That's a whole other cool thing. I could decide to not publish the opinion poll, in which case I will return the card to the discard deck without anyone else looking at it, so they don't know what card has gone out of the game. And then I get to increase my party membership, and that's done by rolling 2 dice that have numbers 0 through 3 on them, so I could get a 0 to a 6 count of party membership increase from that. And often, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, a lot of times, because you don't know what you're bidding on, you don't know if it's going to help you or hurt you or where it's going to fall in that range. A lot of times these opinion polls aren't published, and that's one of the rule changes, depending on which edition you have, whether or not you get something, i.e. the die rolls, to increase your party membership, or you get just nothing. Which is in the original.
Right.
And where, again, we have the Valley Games edition, and that's the only one we've been playing, and we kind of took the majority of the rules from the Valley Games edition and just played that, so that's what we're going off of.
Now, when we were talking about the negotiation, you said the word coalition. I want to back up just a second, because it occurs to me that that is another awesome effect of the Shadow Cabinet cards, where it allows the possibility of a coalition between two players in an election based upon how your party's political views and their party's political views line up.
Right. When you play a Shadow Cabinet card on, I want to say it's either 3 or 4 of them. In fact, I know it's 4 of them. When you play a Shadow Cabinet card that has a little telephone symbol on the corner of it, that indicates that you're playing a coalition Shadow Cabinet card, and you put one of your little coalition markers, you basically just a marker of your color, on that region. And it sits there until the round in which you're going to resolve that election. And then, when you get to, say, the 4th step of the coalition, or of the round, of the 10 or 11 steps in any given round, when you get to step 4, which is form coalitions, in turn order,
yes,
if you have at least two matching political platforms that are, with other people that have been forced to put their coalition markers out by playing Shadow Cabinets in that region, you may then propose a coalition. If you have 3 or more similar or matching party platforms, then you may force a coalition.
Yeah, and like Edward said, turn order matters. In our last game, a 5-player game, there was one where I was first. I suggested a coalition with Robert against the other Tony. Together, we would have beat Tony in that election, so I figured Robert would go for that. But there was also a possibility, because of the Shadow Cabinet play, and nobody having enough alignment and platform to force a coalition, that there was an advantage for Robert to ride Tony's coattails. And
the other Tony.
Right, the other Tony's coattails. So when I offered my coalition to Robert, he declined it and went into a coalition with his chief opponent. But of course, they ran away with the election. They both got good points.
And that's another thing is, in coalition, when you resolve an election, you're counting votes individually. However, when you're in a coalition, your votes count together. So that, say, in that example, the other Tony and Robert's votes, say, max out at about 70, individuals can max out at a top of 50. So if they get past 50 with a coalition, or at least 50, they're automatically going to win. And that can be hugely powerful.
Before I talk about one other thing that I like a lot about this game, and that's the way the scoring works, I want to say that, before I forget, although this can be, a long game, stuff like that, it's not because of, downtime. There's always something going on, because you have to be thinking about elections that are coming up, you're working about, negotiations, you're bidding on this, you're planning your Shadow Cabinet. There's no downtime for me, personally.
Yeah, there's almost none. I mean, there might be a little bit here or there, but it's so few and far between.
It's an engaging game.
Yeah, this isn't one of those to where you're like, okay, I took my turn, I can go upstairs or go grab a snack or whatever. Yeah, this is one of those to where, okay, once you strap in, put your seatbelt on and get ready for the ride, because it's 3.5 hours of nonstop. Just, you're never looking at the clock. You're constantly, you're focused on the game, and before you know it, wow, 3.5 hours has flown by.
Feeling like 2.
Yeah. Really, really good point.
So the scoring. I love the way scoring works in this game.
Both, are you talking individual elections and final scoring?
In-game and end-game.
Okay, go for it.
Each of the provinces has a point value,
which range, I think, from 20 to 80.
And most of them are in the 50 or lower kind of a thing.
Yeah,
There's some sort of a bell curve there. So number one, that's one of the things you look at when you're deciding how to invest in an election, right? Your alignment plus its value.
Right, because whoever wins an election can potentially get a max of whatever that value is.
So if you're fighting, if the election is in a province that's worth 60, the winner of that election is going to get 60 victory points.
As long as he pegs out at 50 votes. But the cool thing about this, and something that I'm sure you were about to bring up, and I'm cutting you off, is the fact that if you get the 50 votes and you get those 60 points, if I peg out at, say, 47 votes, I'm I'm not getting that 60, but it's not an all or nothing. I might get 54 votes. So sure, you win it, but I'm not that far behind.
Every player that has at least minimal votes,
which I think is 5,
is going to garner some level of victory points.
As well as cash.
That's a terrific scoring system.
On top of that, though, and the motivation for winning that election is going to be the placement of media cubes up on the national board, as well as being able to change the national political picture.
Yeah. In the election that just got resolved, if you have media cubes there and you won the election, you get to put one of your media cubes up on this other track on the main board,
which locks up victory points for you.
And it's a decreasing scale. So the earlier elections are worth more on that track than the later elections.
Right. Even if it's a low value region, it's worth more points due to the media cubes because those are worth the highest at the beginning.
Yeah. What Edward was saying about the national viewpoint with the different political issues, you get to add cards, take cards away, various things. You get to manipulate that. And the way that works on that big board where you're putting them in their slots, and when things are moved, they can slide down, and the slots are worth graduating values. It's a neat little manipulation mechanic.
And they're not only worth victory points when you match them at the end of the game, they're also worth party membership during the game.
Which is directly victory points.
Right, and it's like layer upon layer, which, again, getting back to what we said earlier, is just our wheelhouse.
So let's run with that layer upon layer. Let's talk about what makes this game heavy.
All right, first off, playtime. Let's start there.
Okay.
3.5 hours to us is fine.
Right.
No big deal. But I know to some people, it's definitely going to be something that might need to be planned. We don't think so, but again, we're the weird ones.
I think, in general, there's a lot going on in the game. When we mentioned there's no downtime, you're always trying to plot and plan, multiple elections at any one time, although one's going to be resolved. You can't forsake every election. You have to invest and manipulate ahead of schedule.
Right. It's very procedural, which I think actually helps it out as far as making it less heavy, in a sense that it's not a tough game. It's not a hard game to understand how it works. Now, the strategy and all that, yeah, sure, I get that. But the actual, every round has step 1, bid for starting player. Step 2, party platform conference, so on and so forth. And so it's a procedural thing, and there is definitely 1 or 2 fantastic cheat sheets or player aids on BGG that we recommend.
Jason Kimmings did the one that we love and we use in our games.
I don't know how you play without it, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, it's very procedural, and so that actually works against the heaviness, I would think.
So the procedural nature of the game even makes the game more coherent.
Yeah, it definitely makes it make sense.
Do you think the planning is heavy in this game? And I almost want to say it's more investing than planning. Because I'm investing cubes, money, etc. into future elections. Does investing take the place of planning in this game?
No, I see what you're saying. I think we're arguing semantics with that. I think you could word it either way, but
because it's not like, oh, I need to do this and this and this next turn. It's more like I need to invest this turn in the thing that's going to be resolved next turn or next turn.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. One thing that I do think is almost like the mind-blowing, wow. After you see the first round, the very first time you play it, and you see, it's one thing to, read the rules and watch Scott's video and understand how it plays. But once you see it in action, and you realize just how much further future investment that you need to make, and you're not only planning on, how many votes and how many party meetings you need, you also need to plan for making sure that your party's platform, you're able to manipulate it, and you need to, plan on getting those shadow cabinet cards played at the right time. We haven't even touched on the bribes or contributions.
Contributions.
Do I need the money now? Do I need the party membership now? Do I need the big money late? How do I want to play this? Or am I desperate for the money now? So there's so many so many things that you need to plan for and invest in that I think is, even with it being procedural, can be a bit overwhelming for some folks early on.
Yeah, I think you're right, though, that folks will get it. Certainly, they should see how the machinations of the game work after that first election.
Right, but the strategy part comes later.
Yeah, it's an easy game to play, especially with the aids, but it's a difficult game to play well.
Absolutely. And I think there is an inherent experience value in this, in a sense that if it's your first time playing and it's my 5th time playing, I definitely have a huge leg up on you.
I would agree with that, for sure. For sure.
But after a handful of games, and a handful could be 2, could be 3, we're on a pretty level playing field. Now, if you and I, having played this 4 or 5 times, if we ran into somebody who's played it 20, 30, 40 times, I bet you there's probably a significant gap as far as what we think we know how to do and they know what to do.
Sure.
And so there, it's a continual curve of learning. Something else that you might not think of that would make the game heavier or larger barrier to entry is going to be the theme. And the reason I say that is, assuming you're not weird like us and just dig weird themes and dig heavy games just by their nature, if you're Joe average gamer out there, really? German politics? Ooh, can't wait to play that.
Don't you have any trading games in the Mediterranean?
Right, yeah, seriously. So I do think that the theme itself can be thought of as so dry and so impenetrable that it's just there's nothing there to grab you, and that might add to the weight or the barrier to entry.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that is true. It probably is not too unlike, I don't want to play a game where I'm making dresses for the French court of Louis XV. Just to tie those two things together, I think you've touched on something that makes sense. Is very similar to that. Yeah. Let's talk about the luck in the game.
What luck?
What luck? Where do I start?
Now, would you just call it flat out luck, or would you call it mitigated luck?
Here's the thing. When I play Die Macher, the amount of luck in the game makes me think that this is where it's 1986 is showing.
To a point. And see, my counterpoint to that would be...
Counterpoint? You haven't even heard my
argument. Go ahead. I thought that was. Okay, go ahead.
So here's the thing. It's got dice.
Sure.
Yes.
But they're weighted dice.
They're weighted dice. They're 2 6-sided dice. The numbers are 0 through 3. I'm assuming that there's probably 2 2s or something like that on the dice or something like that. I haven't really looked. So even though it's random, it's really not a big deal, right?
It's not a huge swing.
Right. I think there are times when it's impactful, but it's not huge, right? Your party my party membership went up 5. All right, great.
As opposed to mine only went up 1.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not
at the end of the game. My party membership's going to be 50 or something,
or 70 or whatever.
Knows,
what's
right? So
what's 3 or 4?
Not that big of a deal. I think that the randomness of the opinion polls is necessarily random, but I do feel crestfallen when I pay an exorbitant amount of money and my party's position is not supported by the results of that poll.
And see, I think that's a you problem. And here's why. And no, here. I think the way you're thinking of the opinion polls is totally wrong. You're thinking of it as, hey, how can this help me? And see, I don't think of it that way. I think of it as, I'm buying insurance. If I'm fighting for this opinion poll, it's because I am strong in this region. I have invested heavily in this region. I need to do well in this region.
But that's where you're wrong, sir.
How so?
Because it doesn't matter what I've invested in this region. We're going to talk about opinion polls a little bit further, but the only way I can really handle opinion polls in this game right now is the thing we don't care about, theme. I address it thematically with my own mind, and I can say that, yes, I've done some investing in opinion polls and everything, but the masses can be asses.
But, and see, just the way I think about it is, I'm just buying insurance. If I win this opinion poll, I'm not winning it to help me. I'm winning it so it doesn't hurt me.
Right.
And that's why, that's the main thing that I'm focused on 90+% of the time when I'm going after an opinion poll. It's pure insurance. It's negative mitigation, loss mitigation.
So party platform, I think, is the other random factor, and this is my big bugaboo about the game. I get the fact that you should not be able to change your party platform on a dime. But the problem is that I cannot change it logically. I have to draw 3 cards, and I can choose one of those. And I know in the last 2 games, I felt like I have never drawn cards that have been helpful to me.
Right. Like, for instance, in one of the draws last game, I got all 3 anti-square tomatoes.
Yes.
So, really? All 3?
Right.
Really? So I can't change it at all. I mean, I'm foobarred.
Your party platform is so critical to your scoring in elections that's what makes it the biggest bugaboo. So I played 3 times. I've had 3 straight second-place finishes. And I feel like my scoring has been stifled by my inability.
Who won those?
Some jerk named Edward.
Sorry.
Yeah, we've been first and second in the 3 games that I've played.
Yeah, and all of them. Yeah, I've done well. I've done well.
Yeah, but you apparently are having better luck drawing your party
platform.
See,
and
cards.
I don't, and that's part of. I agree with you.
So this is all I mean. These things don't turn me off. But this is where I think it's 1986 is showing.
Okay, in that respect,
you understand what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
I will say this though: at the beginning of our last game, I had my party platforms were just trash.
Sure.
I didn't match worth a damn in any of the 4 elections. Lucky for me, none of them were high value
That's right.
regions.
That's right.
So that played it. That helped offset my really bad draw to begin. But one thing that was good, and it could just be that I just draw really well, that when you get a chance to exchange your 3 hand cards with random from the deck to then change one of your party platforms, maybe I did just draw well, although not entirely, because like I said, I did get 3 of the same.
Right. So let's move along and talk about some of the mechanics that we enjoy. As we're fond of saying, we are admitted mechanics whores.
So mechanically, what is it that attracts you to the game?
I like the media influence cubes and the changing of the potential ability to change the German state's political outlook.
Okay, so
I like that area control battle.
Okay,
I love anything with auctions, so I do like the intense auctions that happen for the opinion polls and stuff like that. Oddly enough, I rarely make large bids for first player.
Yeah, I think the biggest you've ever bid is like 3,000, which blows me away.
4,000, Yeah.
For me, I love the card play with the shadow cabinet and the fact that it resolves in turn order. So it's that planning with the card play that I really
planning with the card play and how the turn order impacts all that.
Right, and the blind bidding. Not huge on blind bidding, to be honest. Yeah, for turn order. I do love just the straight auctions of the opinion polls, though. That again, we're both big economic guys and love auctions. So that really, really draws me into it. And I agree with you as far as the scoring. One thing that we did recently is we had kind of a community board on an easel that showed where every party was.
Right, we kept track of the scores from election to election to election.
Right, so that people could see, okay, who's in first. And that actually came back to hurt me in a couple, in one turn in particular, to where people saw that I was leading. Therefore, they ganged up on me and just punished me in 2 different regions. But then it requires you to do that planning and that investing to offset that.
One other thing I like in the game mechanically is during the game, you're putting cubes in the electoral regions. And those cubes are from the party meetings, right? And those cubes translate to votes based on how your political party lines up with the province and what your popularity number is. That is a very cool mechanic, how your cubes are worth half of the vote to 3, 4, 5, whatever, And then with the key issues doubling the impact of a card, that's an awesome, fun mechanic.
It really is. That's really cool.
Because it leads to this decision of, like, in the elections that are coming out in the future, I'm looking pretty good here. Do I convert some of those into votes now, or do I let those cubes stay there?
Right. Do I
because
bank?
I think I can make my position go higher.
It has a bit of press your luck in a sense that because not all of the future regions platforms are revealed, you don't know if that's going to match with you as turns go, as we reveal more cards in that region. So that press your luck part, okay, do I want to bank on it now and only have, say, them be worth 2 votes each, whereas maybe if things play out right, that could be worth 4 or 5 votes, which could then give me potentially the win for the region, and then get me a media cube up onto the national board, let me change national view.
Yep.
I mean, just hugely important. So that press your luck, which again, not really too keen on, but in this application, sweet.
So it's pretty clear that we've enjoyed our plays.
You think?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's been all right.
But there's got to be some things not to like about the game, and there is for me. Is there anything for you that you don't like?
All right, a couple things. First off, we've said that we played the Valley Games edition.
Yes.
The graphic design sucks. There's just no 2 ways around it. Between the
industry and nuclear, for
example.
just
terrible. Whoever thought those were clearly defined, just terrible.
I do like the square tomatoes.
Oh, well, that's from the first edition, though. So But the graphic design it leaves something to be desired. So that first and foremost. And again, artwork is big to us. We both appreciate a well-designed graphically, but also pretty.
Michael Menzel did not do this game.
Not so much. But also the only other real gripe that I have is the luck or the randomness in that. And I have no problem, zero problem with the opinion polls, bidding on them blindly. Because again, I think of them as insurance and not as helpers. I don't depend on those to help me.
So opinion polls is one of my problems too, right? So I imagined in my own feeble mind, if this game had been designed in 2014, what an opinion poll in a heavy game might look like. And here's what I came up with.
Oh,
This
is interesting. Okay.
The opinion poll is based on actual logical things, not just a random card.
Really?
So the opinion poll is based upon the alignment of political views of my party to the province. Right? If my party has a line of 1 of 4 things, I'm probably not extremely popular in that district. Number 2, which is already present in the game a bit in some respects, in terms of that alignment, is media control. Because media, right, sex sells, right? So, that can definitely drive your popularity up.
Or mudslinging or whatever, right?
Perhaps instead of bidding or something like that.
On the opinion polls,
right, instead of bidding, everyone's doing like a blind bid, as in the investment into the region, like pressing the flesh and having commercials and advertisements and campaign rallies and things like that to try to get your message out and boost everything up, right? And then every party has an effect in the popularity poll. Every party is going to rise, decrease, or stay the same based on that media control, the alignment, the success of those political rallies and things like that. So it's based on the things I've invested in the province to increase my popularity and how my political party's platform aligns with the province's should reflect how my party is doing in the opinion poll. That would add some heavy
counterpoint. First off, let me say props to you giving it that much thought. I think that's really cool. I dig that. I appreciate you thinking like that. However, that gives you perfect control in a sense that if you invest heavily, you're going to do well on the opinion poll.
Not necessarily, because it's based on media.
Right.
It's based on my investments.
Right.
And it's based on my alignment of political views.
Right. But there's no randomness in that.
Correct.
And see, I get what you're saying, but okay, even
but all parties could do potentially well.
Right. I get that. But have you seen normal politics? Obviously we're only familiar with the US, but there are surprises. There are things that just came out of nowhere, like, hey, who got the minority vote to show up? Oh, we expected X. We expected this many to show up, and they didn't. There's that randomness, even in real life. They don't have perfect information, even though different sides can influence it. So I don't think that complete elimination of the randomness in there is a good thing. I want some of that random. Again, maybe not to the extent of where it is.
Right.
However, the complete removal, I disagree with.
So, party platform is another one that I've given some thought to.
Whoa, back up. Well, do you agree, or do you think no, just the removal of all luck and just pure planning, and whoever does it better, you win at the end?
No, I think I would agree. I guess if there could be a little salt and pepper with some luck or random feature, but as long as it's not very swingy.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, but see, and we'll just agree to disagree. I like your idea. Don't get me wrong. Add some luck or randomness in there. However, I do not have any problem whatsoever with the opinion polls as they are with the randomness, because of the fact that if it's important to you, win the damn auction.
Like I said, thematically, that's the only way I deal with it.
Okay. All right. So your next point.
Party platforms. Again, if this was designed in 2014.
Oh, Jesus, you did on this one too. Rock on.
I would have liked to imagine that there was deep mechanics that would allow a party to change their political platform logically, rather than on a draw of cards.
That makes sense. I get that. Would you agree that current politicians flip-flop?
Oh, yeah, probably far too much.
Okay. So without going too much politically here, but how would you do that then? How do you account for that flip-flopping that would happen in real life, but without the random draw?
One thing I do like about the game's current rules with changing your political party's platform, that is, you can only do one per turn.
You can't just be like, oh, screw it, I'm the opposite of everything.
That's right.
Now.
No, so you can only make gradual, changes, of course, basically, which I think is perfect, right? I just don't want to be boxed in by the draw of cards. So a couple of thoughts, right, was, what if you just had a number, you could just change one, right?
Anything you want.
Why not, right? You still only get one a turn, so you still have the same number of changes to your political platform in the game, but you could change to whatever view it is you chose, rather than these 3 square tomato cards you just drew in your hand.
The only downside, off the top of my head, again, you're not knowing this ahead of time, off the top of my head, then that would be too easy to just go ahead and, oh, wait, that one's worth 25 at the end.
I'm glad you said that. I'm ready for that.
All right.
What if I have 2 other possibilities? What if, players had a deck of cards from which they could choose their changes? Once changed, they're gone. So you only have a limited, variety of changes. And then the other flavor of that is, what if the deck for my party, the SPD, was reflective of the actual views of the SPD versus your party or your party or your party's deck was made up of the political views that are more representative of that party. So I know that as player yellow, I know that this political view,
the FDP, if you will,
this political view is against, the green and the red are generally against this view. So it's more like it's the political parties battling it out based upon the inherent views of those parties.
So let me make sure I understand you. You're saying kind of everybody has their own deck of cards that represents
that's reflective of your party's actual beliefs.
Okay, so take yellow,
but with some ability to change your party's belief, because this is a game.
Right. So me being yellow, the FDP, and I don't know what their real political views are, whatever. So whether it's, pro-A, anti-B, and pro-C, whatever. You're saying that my deck of cards is going to be different than, say, the SPD's deck of cards, because inherently I am more weighted towards these views. Is that what you're saying?
In general, yes, but I'm saying there would be a small overlap.
Sure,
in the Venn diagram,
get that. Right,
because maybe there's one card that lets you be pro-square tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. Even though I'm normally...
Because in general, you're anti-square tomatoes, so you probably have more of those, so that if you ever change to pro, for the benefits of one election, you can always change back, or something to that effect, where your party represents your party's views.
Dude, that sounds pretty badass, to be honest with you. That really, I love that, because that, and I agree with you, that is the one big negative in the game, is the fact that the party views, the party platforms, is just a pure random draw. If you draw like shit the entire game, you're not going to do well. And if I draw really well the whole game, I'm going to smoke you more often than not. And that's completely out of your hands. So that idea, hey, game designers, anybody out there listening, that sounds like an awesome idea.
As we've discussed, when we play heavy, I just want mitigated random.
Right, and there is no mitigation for just a random card draw.
So
dude, seriously, that is really a cool idea. I dig that. Good call.
So only one other thing I
there's more
don't like about the game, but
wow, your list is longer than mine. But okay, go ahead.
But there's a variant to handle this, and we've talked about it, where money's worthless at the end.
Oh yes.
So whoever's got the biggest cash pot will buy the last opinion poll,
which happened in the last game.
Which happens in every game.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, last game I knew that I could win. I knew I had enough money.
Yeah.
Even though money's hidden, you still have a ballpark idea.
Which is why I threw the towel, not the towel, but I threw the purse at the second to last.
Right, because you knew I couldn't win them both, and that one.
And I couldn't win the last one.
Right.
So I better win one of them.
Yeah.
And I won that election as a result.
Right. Yep.
But not the game.
That's a good point. And like you said, there is I don't know if it's an official variant or just
I don't know.
It may be an earlier version of the rules.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But to where money is worth victory points.
Right.
Some breakdown.
Yeah. I think that would be
at
cool.
the end of the game. I'd definitely be willing to try it, and that would then offset that. And I agree with you that that's another small negative about the game.
For me, in summary, I think that this is a great game that has soldiered on well enough for 30 years.
30 years,
to
dude.
remain a very highly regarded design.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
I think that it qualifies for a Grail game, and that every serious gaming enthusiast should experience this game.
Couldn't say it better myself. Even if you're not even if the theme sucks to you and it's just terrible, try it. At least try it once, because it's the fact that it's funny. We say we act like 30 years is that old, both of us, pushing 40. Or maybe 50.
Or maybe 50.
Like 30 years isn't that old, but in game terms,
yeah,
that's an eternity.
That's forever.
I don't know of outside of the classics, Go, chess,
right.
all that type thing. Outside of that, but board games, like the hobby board games, there is no more classic, I don't think, than this that has gone on as long as it has and is as well respected as it is.
Yes.
Absolutely need to try it once, even if it's not your normal cup of tea.
So let's talk about ratings. Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Or want to go first?
You.
Okay. So, despite the issues I have with some of the random elements, like I said, it's a great game, and I enjoy playing it. I'd be happy to own a copy. I don't. Of course, if I did, I'd probably create my own variant based on those other things.
And I would recommend trying to get the Hansum Glück, the second edition.
Second edition.
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to rate this game 3.
The end.
The end.
No explanation.
Well,
no.
my preamble was.
Well, I guess. Yeah. The funny thing is I came into this discussion thinking absolutely it's going to be a 4. Just now, I'm not saying it's not without flaws.
Sure.
But that point you brought up, and I'm serious. I'm smitten with this idea. The fact that the idea that everybody has their own party platform deck, and does that somewhat taint the game for me now a little bit? Because I'm like, oh my god, this could be amazing, and now it's just like, yeah, all right, yeah. So I gotta admit that I think it does to a point. Don't get me wrong, I still want to play the game more.
Yes.
I'm not. I mean, I have 4, 5 plays, whatever. And I'm jonesing to play it again. But that said, I would agree with a 3, heavy 3 rating. But it's one game that I think that every heavy gamer that claims to be a collector or that really enjoys that side of the hobby needs to find a copy and own. And so, yeah, I'll call it a strong 3.
A 3 leaning to the right.
Yeah, exactly. And not going down.
Like many political parties do.
Dun-dun-dun.
All right, that's Die Macher.
Hey guys, Tony here with a post-recording addendum. After recording this episode, I went and read first edition rules of Die Macher, and there's a lot of different rules that address some of the random issues in the game that I talked about. For example, party platforms have a much more logical way of changing, and they can change to anything they want, and that each party does have one core political view that's part of their their persona, and only change your political platform 3 times during the game by holding special conferences, which also cost money. Also, there's mitigation on the opinion polls. If you're the winning bidder, you can buy multiple cards at that same price and then elect which one you wish to publish. So, I think I was wrong when I said the game's 1986 is showing. It's more like 1998 is showing, the year in which large rule changes occurred. Has anybody out there played First Edition? Let us know your thoughts on that edition of the game.
One last thing I wanted to bring up is we're starting this thing we're calling, and I don't know if this is a big term out there or not, but we're calling it Podblasting. I don't write a lot. Tony writes more than I do, but we're both going to do little snippets, little 5, 10, 15-minute little like journal entries or posts on the website.
Audio blog posting.
There you go. And we're going to be doing that on the website in between episodes. So definitely, if you guys are interested, take a look at the website, heavycardboard.com, and let us know what you think. One thing to note real quick, how to get in touch with us.
Again, Twitter, @HeavyCardboard. Our website, heavycardboard.com. Facebook, HeavyCardboard. And on email, heavycardboard@gmail.com.
Hit us up on iTunes, and please, we want feedback, but more importantly, send us ideas. We're all about, wanting to interact with you guys.
Awesome.
So with that, we'll see you guys talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday. Hoorah.